So you're thinking of moving to Flower Mound, Texas. Well, let's get painfully honest about what it actually costs to live here as a family. We are going to talk housing, taxes, insurance, a little bit on childcare, utilities, the whole cart. And I will also show you a more realistic monthly budget for 3 different types of lifestyles and give you the tools to be able to plug in your own specific numbers depending on what it is that you want to be paying when you make the move here to the Dallas, Texas area. But first up, my name is Kristen Carpentier. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I love helping people make their relocation dreams come true because it is not easy. So if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out, call me, shoot me a text, send me an email, and let's figure out the best case scenario for you. And of course, the best location when you're making that move here to the Dallas, Texas area. Now, what is it that actually is going to make the city of Flower Mound different? Because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because Flower Mound does keep popping up on a lot of the best places to live lists, thanks to its great schools, great safety scores, and more of a suburban lifestyle with an easy commute to not only the DFW airport, but many other popular areas throughout the Metroplex, from downtown Dallas, downtown Fort Worth, city of Southlake, and even over into the Plano and Frisco area. But truly, it's the quality of life that is real. It just is not going to come free. Of course not. Now, most families looking to relocate here to the Flower Mound area are going to end up shopping in the high $500,000 to around low $800,000 range, which of course, plenty of outliers either way, depending on your schools, the commute, and maybe a new build versus an older resale home. And the majority of homes here in Flower Mound were built in the 1990s. So what you might find here for a lot of those resale homes, you're going to be seeing a lot more older homes, maybe dated compared to some of the more modern new construction homes, but some of those are going to be pretty far outside in areas that you're going to make your commute even that much longer. But across the Flower Mound housing market, prices are going to range from even $280,000 to about $8.7 million. And those are current price points for when I'm obviously shooting this video. So that is definitely a very big swing in home values, and that is going to vary a lot, of course, by the location, the size, and the age of the home. Obviously, if there's any updates that have been made. But the recent data is going to put the median listing price here in Flower Mound at around $630,000 and the average home value at around $760,000, which does explain why so many buyers here land in that $600,000 to $800,000 window. So what do these numbers mean monthly? So for an example, let's use that $700,000 price of a home. We're going to go right here in sort of that mid-range right now. If you're moving here with a family, and especially you're coming from a higher cost state like California, which I do hear from California, it's quite a bit, and you want to put 20% down. Yes, I know those numbers can vary. You can get into a home for as little as 3% down, depending on the type of loan that you're wanting. But for today's scenario, we're just going to put 20% down. And obviously those numbers are going to vary, but typically when I see clients relocating here and they've sold a home in another state and they do have quite a bit of equity, well, we're going to use that as a rough number for now. So on a $700,000 house, hopefully I didn't confuse you already, and you're putting 20% down, your loan's going to be around $560,000. And that is at the current recent 30-year fixed rate with just showing your principal and interest only. So that is going to give you roughly a $3,600 per month mortgage payment just on your principal and interest. Well, then we're going to have our property taxes. And here in Flower Mound, those are going to range around 1.75%. So yes, those numbers are going to vary just a little bit. And we're also going to have that homestead exemption here as well. So those numbers are going to be around $820 for your property taxes. And here in Flower Mound, your insurance rates could be around $400 to $500, and your utilities could be anywhere from $250 to $420. But let's say you do have 2 kids. So we're going to mix in a little bit of daycare and aftercare, and those numbers are going to be about $1,600 to $2,000 a month. And then you're going to have gas and toll road expenses, depending on where it is that you're going to work. And then we're looking at another $300 to $400 a month. And if your family needs to eat, you have a family of 4, those groceries could run you anywhere from $1,000 to about $1,250 just on your groceries. And then you're moving here to more of that mid-range type neighborhood. Well, your HOA fees could be anywhere from $50 to $150 per month, which makes your move-up total anywhere from around $8,000 to $9,700 per month. But notice, it doesn't matter if you have a $550,000 house, $700,000, $800,000, or even a $1.2 million house. These types of price points here in Flower Mound are very common. So what you're going to get for $550,000 and what you're going to get for $1.2 million, you're obviously your monthly budgets are going to vary quite a bit. But let's dive in a little bit deeper on our property taxes, specifically here in the town of Flower Mound. Now, what you really want to make sure of when buying a house here in Texas is understanding your property taxes and the fact that they could be much higher here. And obviously how our property taxes are going to relate to your property values. Now, thankfully, there is a little bit of a bonus for those of us working folk here in the state of Texas, and that is that we have no state income tax. So our property taxes are really what have to do the heavy lifting here for us, unfortunately. Now, the tax rates here in the entire state of Texas actually are going to vary based on the taxing entities that are associated with each individual property, actually, including the county, the city, the different school district, and sometimes even your water district, but we don't have to worry about that here in Flower Mound. Now, the town rate for your property taxes here in the town of Flower Mound is going to be 0.387277 per $100. And that is for the current 2025-2026 year. And in Denton County, that number is sitting at around 0.186. And the majority of the town of Flower Mound is actually part of the Louisville Independent School District. We do have a section on the west side that is zoned to Argyle ISD. But since the majority of it is LISD, we're going to come in with those specific numbers, and that is going to be 1.1178. I know those numbers can get a little bit tedious when you plug them in, but thankfully we have those lovely tax county assessors that are going to do it for us. So most of the household here in Flower Mound are going to roughly be paying around 1.7 to 1.8% total for their property taxes. And of course, those are going to be depending on the exact districts and special districts and areas that you might be moving to here in Flower Mound. So on the west side of Flower Mound, like I said, those are zoned for the Argyle ISD, so those numbers are going to be slightly different. And you can even pay a little bit of extra on those property taxes if you are in a special water district too, which you can find some of those in the area. So just something to be aware of so that we can get more in depth if you are wanting to consider some of the certain areas here in Flower Mound. So give me a call and we can run through some of those situations and I can hook you up with whatever information you might need more specifically on those property taxes. But let's talk, of course, about that homestead exemption, because say you're moving here and you want your primary residence to be here in Texas. Now, with all of those fun property taxes that we have to pay, we do get tax breaks on our primary residence, like I said. And in the November 2025 election, the Texas voters did approve several key constitutional amendments that help provide property tax relief. And these numbers are effective for the 2025 tax year and then moving forward. And the voters did end up voting to help increase the general residence homestead exemption for the school district portion of the property taxes. And that was raised from $100,000 to $140,000 of a home's market value. And this is going to mean that a larger portion of a home's value is exempt from the biggest part of a homeowner's property tax bill. So like I mentioned, the property tax portion for Louisville Independent School District is just over 1.11. So when that larger portion has been raised from $100,000 to $140,000 for that exemption on your property taxes, every little bit is certainly going to help here in the great state of Texas. And those numbers are going to help to potentially save an average homeowner hundreds of dollars throughout the course of the year. Now, just a little bit more info about some of these numbers. The property taxes in Texas are going to be determined by the county appraisal district and are based on factors such as the size of the home, the location, the condition, and any improvements or changes that have been made to the property. So if you do pull maybe some permits to do some work on your house and maybe you're adding on some square footage, or maybe you do go in and add a pool to your house, obviously, somebody's going to find out about it and your taxes are certainly going to go up. But there is a little bit of protection for homeowners, and that is that there is a 10% limit on the annual increase of a homestead property's appraised value for tax purposes. And it's often called the appraisal cap. So this is going to apply only to properties that are going to be primary residences with a homestead exemption that has already been filed, or properties that are owned by a specific individual. But you can contest your property taxes every year, and I have multiple clients that we do help them with this every single year in pulling comps. So another thing that we can talk about when we get further into the buying process here in the Texas area. Now, a little bit about rentals, because obviously, can we find some rentals here? We do have some apartments here in Flower Mound, but sometimes I have people relocating here who are getting a little bit overwhelmed with really not knowing anything about the area, with that bug that they really want to actually make that move, but they still want to be able to kind of get a feel for the area and the different schools and the commutes, for example. So they come out here feeling a little bit more comfortable actually renting first before buying. And I've had, a handful of clients that do come out and rent for a year before they actually do end up purchasing. So if you are thinking of renting in the Flower Mound area and you still want a single family home, you can expect to pay around $2,800 to maybe $30,000 a month for a typical single family 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house here in the Flower Mound area. But again, reach out to me if you have specific questions on some rentals. I don't deal with a ton of them, but I have helped, like I said, a handful of clients get into rentals before they were ready to buy when they're making that big move here to the Texas area. Now, let's get into insurance, because nobody loves having to pay those extra insurance premiums and the claims that might go along with it. Now, home insurance is that line item that is going to shock a lot of people when relocating here. Texas is one of the highest cost states for homeowners insurance, unfortunately. And around Dallas, you could expect to pay between $4,500 to $6,000 per year. It's very common for a typical single family policy right now. And of course, that will also be determined by the type of insurance carrier you are looking to go with, what types of coverage, the type of deductible that you're wanting, and some quotes can be even higher depending on the age and the condition of the roof on your house, the claims history that somebody has put on the property. Maybe somebody's filed a ton of claims, so that's gonna obviously increase those insurance premiums. And obviously, maybe those wind and hail deductibles that you might need when you're making that move here to Texas, because you might not be used to the hail and windstorms that we have. So while we might not be in Florida with hurricanes or maybe California with flooding and wildfires, Texas does have hail, like I said. And when our crazy storms blow through different parts of town, we have seen trees blow over onto homes, damage cars, and of course, tear up our roofs. And if you want to get into the roofing business, that is pretty lucrative here for very good reason. But of course, we can research the different properties and get a lot of these items checked out before you make an offer on a home. And quite a few times I've had clients get a new roof and the sellers were able to have it go through their own insurance, filing their own specific claim before actually having the sale close on the property. So something to kind of think about, where we do extra inspections out here compared to some of the areas, and fully make sure that you feel comfortable when making a purchase here in Texas. Now let's talk a little bit about utilities. Here in DFW, electricity is actually deregulated. So when it comes to your electricity provider, you are able to choose a lot of the time which provider you can go with. But of course, some options aren't always available in all areas, but sometimes you have multiple companies that you're able to choose from. And all these plans are going to actually include what's called the Encore delivery charges, but all in, families typically see around $150 to $250 per month on average for an average size home. And of course, depending on the plan and the season that we're in. Also, if the home has a pool, maybe even the age of the home or the systems that the home is using. And with the heat and humidity here in Texas, you can best believe that you'll be running that AC for a good 6 to 8 months out of the year. Like this past year, we had a few days almost at 90 degrees at the end of November. So tell me that wasn't called for. Now, for our specific home, we had just switched on the heater when all of a sudden, a couple days later, we had to turn around again and switch back to turning on the AC. Granted, not all day, every day is that AC running like we do in the summer months, but we still had to get it on. And let's just say it was practically Christmas time. Then we have the water, trash, and our internet. So you can expect to budget between $70 to $120 just for your water, sewer, and trash for a typical household, and $60 to $90 for your high-speed internet. Obviously, your usage is going to swing with your lawn watering and if you own a pool, which here in Texas, a lot of people do have because it gets so blasted hot. All right, another big one that we need to dive into is commuting. What is it going to cost for your gas, your tolls, and more importantly, your time? Now, gas is trending here in the DFW Metroplex around the mid $2.60-ish cents per gallon. And if you use toll roads like 121 Sam Rayburn Tollway or the Dallas North Tollway, or let's just hope you have a toll tag, you're going to be paying about 22 cents per mile currently in 2025. But if you think you won't need to use it, you'll be paying double that for those rare occasions that you do want to hop on a toll road to save some time. Dallas also has some HOV lanes. Thank heavens if you're a big commuter. So if you move to Flower Mound, you might want to take the 35 East to downtown Dallas, or the 635 HOV lanes east to the far North Dallas area, or over to Richardson. And those prices can vary based on the time of day that you're driving and could quickly add up if you're having to do that on a daily basis. So of course, you don't have to take the HOV lane on those particular highways, but you might want to work it into your budget if you have some brutal commutes to and from work and you want to save a little bit of time, or sometimes even a lot of time. Now, like I said, let's talk a little bit about childcare. Here in Texas, child-based childcare for 2 kids average around $21,600 per year. And in Dallas, in-home care is going to often run you around $2,500 a month. And that is for full-time childcare. Many families do use some mixed daycare and aftercare at schools, or do use part-time sitters. But one thing is for certain, and that is there are a lot of options, including where to send your kids for early education opportunities, which is another thing that we can dive into together based on your personal needs if you're moving here with a family and a bunch of kids. So again, reach out if you have these questions, and I would be more than happy to discuss them with you and see which opportunity and lifestyle and things might fit you best. Now, groceries and dining. We're all spending a lot of money on groceries. Now, according to PayScale, the cost of groceries in the town of Flower Mound are 9% less than the national average. Now, grocery prices in the Dallas area did rise modestly year over year, just like so many other areas here throughout the entire country. But if you're needing maybe like Costco, Sam's Club, and Flower Mound, you're gonna have to travel over to Southlake or over to Louisville. Now, there are plenty of local grocery stores here in Flower Mound. They even have a Whole Foods. Granted, that is on the Highland Village side, just on the border on the north side of Flower Mound. But just to kind of set some expectations early as well, no, Flower Mound does not have its own HEB or Trader Joe's. So despite the whole town constantly begging for one. Now, your HOA dues, because depending on where you live, what are those going to run you? Now, when families do move to Flower Mound, the 2 main, very well-established neighborhoods that have been here forever, it seems, are the neighborhoods of Wellington and Bridlewood. The community of Wellington has over 2,300 homes, and it does feed into Flower Mound High School, so a little bit more on the south side of Flower Mound. And the community of Bridlewood has approximately 1,250 homes, and that one feeds into Marcus High School. So one is on the south side of 1171, one is on the north side of 1171. But both communities have tons of amenities. They have community events and activities and plenty of things to keep your kids busy and active. They both have multiple pools, neighborhood swim teams, and their own fitness facilities, tennis, pickleball, basketball. But in the community of Bridlewood, it does have a public golf course within the community. So that's a benefit to a lot of people, knowing that they can just hop on their golf cart and ride over to play a round of golf. But you're going to get all of that in both master plan communities for around $1,000 per year for their HOA dues. And that's significantly cheaper than what a lot of the new master plan communities are charging, even some of them that have no amenities at all. So while you can find some older areas and some smaller neighborhoods that aren't going to charge any HOA dues, there are plenty of neighborhoods within Flower Mound that the HOAs are still very common. You can pay as little as $20 to around $50 per month for some of the smaller neighborhoods, but some of these are even going to still have a community pool, at least in a typical single family home neighborhood. We have the luxury condo towers at Lakeside, and those HOAs can be hundreds of dollars to over $2,000 per month, depending on the amenities that you're looking for and the type of luxury environment that you want in those condos down there. Now, speaking of other expenses that I'm sure you hear all about in areas like Salina and even over in Northlake, another benefit to an established area like Flower Mound is that most of the neighborhoods within Flower Mound don't have that MUD or that PID add-on taxes, like a lot of the newer suburbs. But on the west side of Flower Mound, there is a lot of new development that will be coming over the next few years. So we're going to see how that does play out in regards to whether or not they're going to be charging the MUD or the PID tax, or more importantly, what those HOA dues are going to be out there. So that's what you can expect if you're thinking of moving to Flower Mound. As we do get ready to finish out 2025, It's the houses here that may start cute, but get pricey rather quickly. And it's our property taxes that are doing our heavy lifting, since Texas is gonna skip out on that state income tax. Our homeowners insurance, on the other hand, that thinks your roof is a piñata, and utilities that behave on most months, as long as it's not July or August, that's for sure. And our commutes behave. But some days it's the big one, could be our childcare, reminding you that naps are priceless and also somehow cost a lot of money. If you're feeling a little bit stressed, that's normal. You're not broken. You're just moving states, comparing school zones, and trying to predict the grocery bills like the weather app, because that seems impossible, right? The good news is you don't have to guess. I live this stuff every single day with families just like yours. And here is your easy button. Again, call, email, text, and I can help you build your custom monthly plan. Talk about home prices, taxes, insurance, tolls, childcare, the works. We don't have any fluff over here, no pressure, just real numbers so that you can decide with confidence and maybe sleep a little bit better tonight if Flower Mound is going to be right for you. And until next time, take care.